This program contains adult content.
Is there a God?
Big atheist.
Really?
What am I, an idiot? Come on.
That yes, it would be nice if you could throw your sins and your responsibilities on someone else. But it's not true.
It looks like far-left lunacy.
I don't believe that it's true that religion is moral or ethical.
You don't need to follow anybody!
It's not human intelligence!
If someone doesn't value logical consistency, what logical argument are you going to give them that will demonstrate that they should?
Welcome to the Godless Rebelution. Today is Friday, November 30th. This is episode 229. I'm Dan Ellis.
I'm Ryan Duffy.
Hi, Mr. Duffy.
How's it going?
Well, it's going. It's going. I mean, things have been better. Things have been worse.
It's life.
Yeah. We had a week off for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And it was nice seeing a bunch of family. Tracy's family always comes and stays with us for the holidays. For both Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we have like the whole family over at our house because
you got the space.
We have the space. You know, the kitchen is a nice gathering area. It's like made for entertaining kind of thing. And, you know, I just fucking love her family. They're all just so awesome and fun and nice and, you know, nice to be around. And we always have a good time. We'll talk about that in a minute. What have you been doing? Because you've not been here for a bit.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the last show because I'd worked 6 days at the fire station. Then I went and shot some stuff for a buddy's pilot show. And then I was like, fuck, I'm tired.
What were you shooting?
A guy who they needed some content shot.
You shot a guy?
No, not like with a camera.
Oh.
Or I told people what to shoot with their cameras.
Oh.
For a TV show on Velocity.
Velocity?
It's a car show. It's like a network that's all about cars and that kind of stuff, automotive type stuff.
Things that offer velocity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they go fast. And then we had Sarah's parents and brothers over for Thanksgiving and surprised her parents with the brothers being there. So that was...
Oh, yeah. I think you told me that it was like the first time in...
I think it's like close to like 10 years that they've all been in the same place at once is what they were saying.
Wow.
Sarah thought it was like 8. I think her mom said, no, it's closer to 10.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And then today's also my dad's birthday.
Happy birthday, Papa Duffy.
My mom will make sure he listens. Happy birthday, Father.
How old is he now?
Don't ask me that question. I got to do math in my head now.
Well, it doesn't involve percentages or fractions. So
born 1959.
Ideally, you would be okay.
Yes,
I couldn't tell you how old my dad is either. So I know he was 18 when I was born. So he's older than I am.
I had to take about 3 minutes the other day to go, fuck. Someone goes, hey, Duffy, how old are you? I'm like, it's an even year.
Nice. You've reached the age where you've forgotten how old you are.
That was a few years ago where I completely missed 33. No, 32. I missed 32 altogether. Because I kept telling people I was 31.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was sitting there one day and I'm like, am I 31? I'm like, wait. It's an even year. I was born on an even year. I can't have an odd year birthday. It's got to be an even one. I'm like, I must be 32, and I turned 33 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know there were at least a few times this year that I told people that I was 43, and that's a goddamn lie. I'm 44. I forget how old I am sometimes, and I think Tracy overheard me, like somebody asked how old I was, and I said 43, and she's like, no, I'm 44. And we're the same age. So she's like, you're a month. Well, I'm not quite a month older. My birthday's January 21st and hers is February 12th.
Okay.
So like 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she's like, no, we're the same age. And I know I'm 44. We were born in an even year. This is an even year. You're not 43.
That's how I do it now. I go, wait, is it an even or odd year? Is it past March? And what do I remember my last birthday being?
That's kind of cool how we break it down into a hierarchy of things like odd or even year, and then are we past whatever month? And yeah. Yeah. Anything else going on?
Not that I feel like I want. Should I? I don't know.
Well, you mentioned stuff to me. We can talk. Well, maybe we'll wait until
stuff is passed.
Yeah.
I like to give up my good news when it's actually
firm.
fulfilled itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That's a good plan. That's a good way to go about things usually. So yeah, getting back to the holidays and having the family over and everything. Tracy's family came in. They stay with us for like a week every Thanksgiving and a week every Christmas. And mainly, most of the family lives here in the state, but one of her brothers lives in Texas. One of them lives in California. And
So they're both freezing when they got here.
well, and then it's funny too, because they usually switch off. Like, Tracy's brother from California usually comes out here for Thanksgiving, but then because he's got young children, he wants to, have the family thing at his house for Christmas. So they stay home for Christmas, and Tracy's other brother, who lives in Texas now, they usually go to his fiance's parents' place for Thanksgiving, and then they come here for Christmas. And yeah, so that's usually how things go. I think there've been a couple of years where they were both here for one or other holiday, but for Thanksgiving it was Tracy's oldest brother. Tracy's the oldest child in the family, and then her oldest brother usually comes out here for Thanksgiving, and his two adorable kids. Oh my God, they're so cute. And she's started taking the CBD gummies.
Yeah.
Because I would have described her as antisocial. She has a lot of social anxiety.
Yeah.
And so she often comes across as distant or really bitchy to a lot of people. and she's like, that's fine. I don't give a fuck. But so she started taking these CBD gummies to help deal with some of her anxiety issues. And they've changed her personality a whole lot. I'm guessing you may have noticed a bit of a difference. Like, she comes down and talks to us before the show and is friendly usually and warm and whatever. But she's like, it was probably a month ago. She came into the kitchen and she's like, I think these gummies are really helping me out a whole lot. Like, I was striking up conversations with strangers in the supermarket today when I went grocery shopping.
And that is not like her.
No. Usually she's just like, who the fuck are you and why are you in my space? Like, back the fuck off. But yeah, so she's been digging that. And anyway, so the whole family's here. We had a nice Thanksgiving. One of the things that really sucked about this year is the 2 days prior to Thanksgiving. Well, it was probably the day before Thanksgiving. Most of our listeners know that Tracy's bio dad died when she was really young. He was an electrician, fell out of a cherry picker to his death. Her first stepfather was in a horrific motorcycle accident when she was younger, and he lost portions of both of his legs, and now he's a born-again crazy Christian guy. He's always been an asshole, but then her second stepfather, who basically raised her and her other siblings, died earlier this year, just like 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It
was right around hunting season.
Yeah, it was in October. Yeah, early to mid-October. And so that was a really bad deal. So let's see, he died, and then her grandfather on her dad's side of the family died. He was the World War II vet.
The bomber pilot?
Yeah. So he died really recently. So since October, she's lost her stepdad, who basically raised them all, her grandfather on her father's side of the family, and then during the Thanksgiving break that we were all on, she lost her uncle Lauren, who, it was just an unexpected, really horrific, awful death. He had gone in for neck surgery. He had injured his neck sometime earlier in his life and had all kinds of problems for a long time, and had finally decided that he was going to go in and have some of the issues surgically repaired in his neck. He was starting to lose feeling in his arms and, could hardly move his right arm anymore and was starting to atrophy. So they were going to go in, fix his neck. Everything was going to be great. But when they went in to actually do the surgery, his spine had deteriorated a lot more than the doctors had initially thought. And so it turned into a much bigger deal. And they ended up fusing, I think, 3 or 4 of his vertebrae together during the surgery. And then he was only in the hospital for a day after the surgery, and then they booted him out. So he goes home, and he's supposed to not lay down at all. They gave him, like, you know, when you get in an accident or you hurt your neck, they give you the padded collar thing that you're supposed to wear.
The one that you put on when you go in to file a lawsuit.
Right. You walk in on crutches, limping. You've developed a limp and a really bad neck problem. Yep. And so anyway, they gave him one of those collars. You know, they performed the surgery, put in some drains and everything while he was still recovering, kick him out of the hospital the next day, and send him home with his collar on and some heavy pain medication. Tell him that he can't lay down, and, you know, that he needs to, you know, keep taking his pain medication regularly, check his wounds and drains and everything. And so his wife set him up in the basement in a recliner with his phone next to him, you know, a drink, whatever, set her alarm to come back in a few hours and give him some more pain meds. And, you know, had set the phone next to him in case there was any issue. He could call her, he could do whatever. And then apparently sometime during the night after she had gone to bed, he woke up, and, you know, and it's one of those things where, so we first find out that he had died because we're laying in bed Wednesday morning, and Tracy's mom calls, and, you know, I can just kind of hear a little bit of noise coming out of the phone. I can't hear all the conversation, but I can hear Tracy's reaction, and then I can hear a little bit of noise. And so Tracy answers the phone, and she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it's her mom. And there's a little bit of a pause, and, you know, Tracy, her eyes get really big, and she kind of slumps down, and she's like, "What happened?" And she's like, "No, Mom, I can't understand you. What's going on? Yeah. What are you saying?" And then I can hear her mom just start just racking sobs on the phone. And Tracy's like, "What is going on, Mom? You're freaking me out. I can't understand you. What happened?" And then I hear Lauren, which is Tracy's uncle. And then I hear a bunch of other mumbling and some like wailing cries. And Tracy's like, "What? He's dead? What happened? What happened?" And yeah, so Tracy's mom, you know, through her sobbing, ekes out that her brother is now dead unexpectedly. And Tracy's like, "What happened?" And she's trying to get information from her mom, and her mom was just too grief-stricken to basically even talk. It was just, she's trying to let the other family members know.
Doesn't she know how to do a group text?
And she does. They have this, like Tracy's, all of her siblings and her mother have this Facebook conversation that is just, they're all commenting out there like all day, every day, throughout the day, you know, razzing each other and whatever. They're really close, and I don't know. I admire how close they are and how much they don't often say that they love each other, but it's obvious through the way that they treat each other and their interactions and how much they communicate and everything. It's really cool. It's a good thing to see. So her mom basically barely is able to eke this out. And, you know, Tracy breaks down. She's crying. She's not entirely sure what's going on. And her brother and his wife and their kids are staying here with us. And so they're, you know, of course they know and they're upset. They don't, and yeah. And I had met Lauren a few times. He was an interesting guy. He wasn't religious at all, and he's a over the road trucker.
Okay.
So he wasn't around a whole lot.
Well, that probably wasn't good for his neck to begin with, sitting there in a bouncing
right, yeah. Well, and he hadn't been able to work for the past 3 or 4 months because he couldn't move his right arm. He couldn't even drive. So that's why he opted to have the surgery so that he could go back to work. But so, you know, everybody's distraught. Everything is shit the day before Thanksgiving. And Wednesday typically is the day that they do a lot of prep work for the big meal on Thursday. So, you know, it's very somber attitude Wednesday as we're learning dribs and drabs about what had happened. So through a bunch of different phone calls and interactions, we find out that he apparently had woken up, and we're not sure what woke him up, whether it was pain or whatever, but he had gone into the bathroom. They live in his wife now lives in, and he used to live in a townhouse with 3 different levels. So it's narrow. They've got stairs, but apparently he had gone into the bathroom in the basement and, looked in the mirror and, obviously could tell that something was wrong. And apparently there's bloody handprints on either side of the sink as he's leaning forward to look at himself in the mirror. And then, apparently he had ripped off the collar and just thrown it away because it must have been choking him. He had a lot of internal bleeding. His face and neck were just bloated and puffy, full of blood. He had gastric bypass surgery early this year and had lost a ton of weight, and his abdomen was completely bloated. But so apparently he knew something was wrong, went into the bathroom, ripped off the collar, and then from everything else that we've been able to figure out, he must have panicked, forgot that the phone was down there, or he couldn't talk on the phone. We're not sure. But then he wasn't supposed to even walk anywhere.
Yeah.
But he tried going up the stairs. And so he's just bleeding all over the place. So there's bloody handprints and everything all over the stairs and the carpeting. And he made it up the first flight of stairs and then collapsed and apparently just bled out there in the living room at the top of the stairs. And so then his wife gets up, a couple hours later to give him his medication and discovers him dead with blood everywhere.
Which I can't imagine what that would be like to wake up like, oh shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, just, you wake up expecting, I need to go give Lauren his pain medication, and you walk down and there's
what looks like a murder scene.
Yeah. Bloated body, blood everywhere. And it just sucks because it's obvious that there was however long the period of time was, there was a period of time that he knew something was horribly, horribly wrong and desperately needed help and, panicked or couldn't talk on the phone, whatever, tried to get help and just couldn't. And so that bit of his death is really, really weighing heavily on a lot of the family members, Tracy included. They had a big family gathering the Sunday before he died at another one of her uncle's homes north of Ogden. And the whole family was there. Tracy and I basically were the only people not there, and it's because we had tickets to go see David Sedaris that night. And, where her other uncle lives, where they were going to celebrate her grandfather's 90th birthday, is more than an hour away from us. So, it's like 2.5 hours round trip drive for us. And we didn't know if we'd be able to make it back in time for the show that we'd had tickets for forever. So Tracy's like, we'll just not, we'll bag this. We're seeing everybody for the holidays anyway, no big deal. But so we didn't go. Took a bunch of family photos. And of course, Lauren's there pre-surgery and everything. Like this was on Sunday that they had the big family party. He went in for surgery Monday. And they discharged him Tuesday, and he died Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So, she feels really terrible that we didn't make it to the family party. She didn't get to see him one last time, whatever. And of course, her grandfather is really having a hard time with it. It's the first child. I don't want to say the first child. It's the only child that they've lost in their entire lives. He just celebrated his 90th birthday. Yeah. So they had they got the family party on Sunday. Lauren goes in for surgery Monday, comes home Tuesday because the hospital basically kicks him out because that's all his insurance will pay for. And I want to revisit that topic later, but that's all his insurance will pay for. So he goes home and, and like I say, ends up dying Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. And then we've still got everybody in town. We've got everything. We're going to do the
Thanksgiving
thing. And so that was really hard. Her grandparents took it very, very hard. Her grandfather, Tracy's like, I think I've heard my grandfather cry maybe one other time in my entire life. And he was just inconsolable. And, had apparently made comments to other family members about, this will really have you questioning your faith and, why would this kind of thing happen? And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this, because his faith for the 90 years of his life now, he just celebrated his 90th birthday this last Wednesday, and he didn't want to have a family party or anything. He's like, what's to celebrate? I'm 90 years old. I lived long enough to see one of my children die. Wow, that's great, you know? But I mean, his faith has taught him his entire life that if he leads a good life, that good things will happen to him. And so when something like this happens,
which is like the worst thing that can happen to you.
Oh yeah. And to have such a tragic and horrific and, you know, like I said, as the details of his death, you know, are leaked out to us in dribs and drabs, and we find out that, he realized something was wrong. There was a period of time where he understood something was wrong. He tried to seek help. He crawled up the stairs on his hands and knees. He
knew he was dying.
Yeah, he knew he was dying. He knew something was terribly wrong. And, you know, just the state of panic and fear that would instill in a person. And then for the people who are left behind who realize the abject horror that this person was going through and had absolutely no help, you know, that feeling of total and complete helplessness where, you know, oh my God, I'm dying right now. If I don't get help right now, I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And like I said, he was, you know, Lauren wasn't a religious person. He was, you know, grew up here in Utah, and his family were predominantly LDS people, but he hadn't had any religious belief for quite a while. I think he was an apatheist. He told me the last time I saw him, that he had started listening to the show.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty good. You guys talk about a lot of things that are very interesting. And I was like, oh, well, great. You know, I'm glad you're digging it. It sounds like. And he said, well, yeah, I drive. And so I just listen to a bunch of different things. And I remembered that you had a show. And so I started listening to you guys. It was pretty good.
Well, that means we're back down to 3 listeners then.
Damn it. Your mom and Lauren. But yeah, so I mean, and he was a pretty decent guy. He would, like I said, he was kind of a blowhard and a bit of a know-it-all, and he liked the sound of his own voice. But he, in his later years, really learned to appreciate the family that he had and the relationships that he had, and had reconciled a bunch of relationships with people, was becoming a really, really great guy. And, you know, like I said, had the gastric bypass surgery. His health was getting a lot better. He went in to take care of his neck so he could go back to work, and he dies.
Trying to better himself.
Yeah. And so, of course, Tracy's grandparents are still very, very distraught and upset about it. Her grandfather is questioning his faith. And it's like, why wouldn't you have questioned it before now? You've been around for 90 years. You've seen a lot of horrible shit throughout that time, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 90, so he was born right around the time of the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. He's seen World War II, Vietnam, Korean War.
Yeah, all
presidential scandals, the assassination of Kennedy. But he's also seen the moon landing and advances in technology and medicine.
And he loves technology. Like, he can barely see or hear, but he loves computers. He loves smartphones. Like, he's all about it, which is,
that's why my grandfather always, whenever I get back home, he always goes, hey, can you sit down and write down how to do that thing on the computer again?
But yeah, so he's really upset about it and is questioning things. And it's so disappointing that he's lived 90 years believing that if he did the right thing, God would always take care of him and his family. And then something like this happens, and it's making him question whether there's a God, and even if there is a God, if it's a good God or a God that's worthy of worship. And it's sad to me that people have to have a personal tragedy before they can personally identify with and understand the point of view of a lot of other people, right? They can't, there's not enough empathy within them initially to hear somebody else's story and be able to personally empathize with that person and understand that, yeah, you know, I may not have gone through the same circumstance, but I understand why you would be questioning things, or why you would have whatever situation in your life that is bringing you down, you know, making you anxious, causing problems in your life. I can understand why you would feel the way you do. You know, maybe we can look at it from another point of view. There are other things that are going on, whatever. But just the lie that has been fed to him for 90 years that leads to a point where now he's 90 years old and is just now starting to question things. And I'm sure that is even more terrifying for him now that he's reached such an advanced stage. His health isn't well. Like I said, he can barely see, he can't hear very well. He's got some other health issues. You know, Tracy's grandmother is not a whole lot younger than he is, and she's got other health issues. And like he said, they've lived just long enough to see one of their children die in a horrific circumstances. If
their mortality wasn't already in the back of their minds, it definitely is now. And then he's contemplating, well, fuck, is what I spent my entire life dedicated to even real?
Yeah.
That's probably more crushing.
Yeah. And it would be terrifying.
Yeah.
After 90 years.
You think you have it figured out. You think you know exactly what's going to happen. You're ready to go to that celestial kingdom. You're all bags packed, ready to go. Then it's like, oh shit, I don't have my ticket.
Yeah.
Wait, the flight doesn't fucking exist.
There may be no airport. It all could be a big fucking lie.
We're in the fucking Matrix.
It's just, it's heartbreaking that it's taken this long for him to even really think about it. And I mean, I'm sure he's thought about it a little bit because he knows Tracy's an atheist, but her whole family who is still super religious, just, they do the typical Christian thing where they figure it's a phase or, you know, she's being misled. She just wanted to sin. She'll eventually come back to the church. They don't ever take the time to sit down and have a conversation with you, right?
Why don't you believe that?
And it's because they're terrified of the prospect of losing their belief, of losing their faith, of even questioning their faith, because therein lies the road to ruin and perdition and hell or outer darkness or whatever your personal religious beliefs are as far as not getting into the kingdom of heaven and sitting at God's right hand, right?
It's the exact reason why we said it before. They've set the church up, the Mormon church, around distracting you from the outside world to make you the church all-encompassing in your life so that way you don't have those distractions.
Yeah, and to treat this life as if it's a doormat. Mm-hmm. That you know, this is just the stop. It's a very, very tiny, minor distraction on the road to eternity.
Yeah.
And living in a gold mansion in the sky. And
that'd be heavy.
Yeah. And now he's questioning all of that.
Yeah.
And when you reach that advanced age and you start to realize that, oh my God, this is possibly the only life that I will ever live. This is the only chance that I have to be a good person, to do good in the world, not to prepare for some, you know, afterlife that I have no evidence for, that I have no proof of, that I've only been offered vague, airy-fairy promises for in the past.
And you've been told your whole life to recite, I believe the book is true.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe Joseph Smith was a prophet of God. All of that bullshit, and now you start questioning it. And that's got to be a terrifying thing. And it's the influence of religion in people's lives just seems so pernicious and so awful when you really stop to think about all of the things that they do, thinking that, well, this life isn't all there is. This is just to prepare me for a much better life.
Yeah.
No, this is it. This is all you've got.
Yeah.
This is you know, and then you lose that person. And the thing that really struck me throughout all of this is how many family members, and I've mentioned it before, that, you know, when death happens in the lives of, you know, devoutly religious people, they still mourn. They still feel this profound sense of loss, which has always seemed really fucking weird to me for religious people who believe that they're going to see this person again. Not only are they going to see this person again, but the person who is now no longer with us here on earth is so much better off now. They're living up in heaven with Jesus on clouds with harps and angels and living in a gold mansion, everything, all of their desires, wants, and needs taken care of. They feel no pain. They're restored to their perfect health. Everything is wonderful. You should be celebrating. I mean, if you actually believe that, you would celebrate that person is now living that life, right?
Well, while you're saying that, I know we've had this conversation before, but it just popped in my head. You know, what if our response to death is our primal response to it?
What do you mean?
Like, we're not, even though you might have thinking, oh, they're going to a better place. They say that, oh, they're in a better place. I'll get to see them again, but they still have that really sad response.
Yeah.
Kind of like you see with, they've demonstrated with elephants. Like, they make the same trek every year. they'll stop to mourn at the spots where elephants have died on that trail on journeys before. It's like that elephant died 5 years ago, but they remember the exact spot when they come walking through.
An elephant never forgets, Ryan.
Well, it's pretty true. They got a pretty good fucking memory.
Yeah.
But they mourn and they cry like animals cry. They mourn the loss of other animals. And I think it's like just an animal instinct to
and animals
mourn
have
a loss.
Animals have no religious belief, right?
They don't. That's what I'm saying. They have zero religious belief, but they mourn just like we mourn. I'm like, that's our animalistic side mourning death.
Yeah. But you would think that if you are a really devout believer who believes in all of these promises of an afterlife, that sure, you may mourn that, oh, well, I won't get to talk to them for however long that I'm still alive. And certainly I'm going to go into heaven where my loved one who's now dead is going to be, and I'll be able to see them again. So you would mourn them not being around right now. Like, oh, you've gone on a long voyage. I won't see you again for quite a while. But I eventually will be traveling to your new home and I'll see you there. We'll meet up again. No big deal. I'll think about you and you can visit me because you're a spirit and you can travel around, whatever. It's a temporary separation. I'm not going to be inconsolable in your death, right? I will understand that, it sucks that I won't get to see you right now, but eventually I will and things will be better. And when we went to, like I said, he wasn't a religious person, so he didn't want a religious service. He didn't want to be buried. He wanted to be cremated. And that was a whole other issue with her grandparents because they're old school LDS. So
no cremation.
Her grandfather didn't want him to be cremated. He wanted him to be buried. And there are some other
ashes.
Yeah, there are some other very troubling issues surrounding that are more personal that I won't really get into on the show. But so there was that whole issue. And then when they had any kind of service for him, initially they've just had like a viewing. And they had the viewing last weekend. It was on Friday.
Okay. After
Thanksgiving, because that's when they had the viewing. Either Friday or I think it was Friday. But so Tracy's brother and sister-in-law had to go to that right before they leave. Like,
oh, geez.
They tried to schedule everything so the family members could all be there and help support each other and see Lauren one last time. And so Tracy's brother and sister, or her brother and his wife and their kids, had to go to this viewing, and then straight from the viewing to the airport to leave.
That's got to be a very
horrible flight. And this poor guy, like he had been evacuated from his home because of the California wildfires, had just barely gotten back into his home like the day of or the day before they flew out here, had all kinds of problems. Then his uncle dies while he's out here, flies back home after leaving the viewing, gets home, and he had a fucking tree fall on his house while they were away. So it was just like, God damn it, man.
He should not buy a lottery ticket.
So it's just been like a lot of really fucking depressing, awful news, but through it all, her, Tracy and her siblings have managed to still be in fairly good spirits and very supportive of each other. And it's just been awesome to see.
Hi, everybody. This is Mikey Weinstein. I'm the founder and president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and you are listening to the Godless Rebelution.
Back in the 1600s, Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia carried on a correspondence with René Descartes, who was trying to defend mind-body dualism. And Elizabeth demanded to know, how could something immaterial like the soul affect something material like the brain or the body? Descartes was never able to answer that question, and these days, science has gone way beyond that. We know a lot more about what is happening. We can literally see memories being formed. We can see the chemical changes in neurons. So the soul is supposed to also have memories. How do the memories get from the neurons to the soul? We know that brains often have false memories in them. Does the soul in the afterlife carry those false memories, or are they somehow corrected after death?
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
Okay, so kind of picking up where we had left off, one of the other things that really stuck out to me when they held the viewing was Uncle Lauren's wife came up to me and she knows that Tracy and I are atheists. Mm-hmm. We've kind of talked about it a little bit when they've been over at the house. And like I said, Lauren wasn't religious and she really isn't either.
And I don't know if you don't own a shirt that isn't atheist.
I do, but they're the minority in my closet for sure. But so we'd walked into the funeral parlor, and of course Linda, his wife, is just, I mean, can you imagine, like, you're supposed to be the one who's there to take care of this person after surgery. You get them all set up, you think everything is fine, and you wake up in the middle of the night to go and give them more pain medication and realize that you failed in your duties of protecting this person, right? And not only did you fail, but they died horrifically while they are under your care. And so she is just devastated by this.
You always go into the hindsights, the what ifs. So what if I would have stayed down there with him for the night?
That was her big thing, is I should have stayed down there with him. I should have been right there by his side the whole time. I should have been there where, I should have been right there with him the whole time. And it's like, you can't do that. And you can't, I mean, sure, you can second guess, but you shouldn't, because
you're just beating yourself up over something you have zero control over, and it's already happened.
Yeah. Nothing's going to change. And to worry about that now is just, you shouldn't have to worry about that, because we all understand that you would be terribly upset by this and grieving, and we all feel really terribly alongside you, and understand that, yes, you do feel like you're partially responsible for this because you weren't there, but nobody else blames you for that. And I think maybe that's a part of why she was voicing this, was she wanted to make sure that, people didn't think that it was her fault, or, that she should have been there. She wanted to, she was, I think, probably seeking reassurance that everybody else in the family was okay with the fact that, she wasn't right there, that it was beyond her control, I think, basically, is what she was seeking.
Well, I mean,
assurance
it was unexpected, extremely unexpected. So she probably went to bed they went to a doctor. They're following the doctor's orders. They're doing what the doctor said. So you figure, well, if you're doing what we're told to do from the doctor, the professional that just did the surgery, everything will be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fucking doctor. I don't know what, Yeah. I'm sure that's what it was. But so we walk into the funeral parlor, and like Linda came over and she's crying, and she gave me a big hug, and it was one of those really long hugs where she's kind of trembling and didn't really want to let go. And she's talking to me while she's sobbing. And we finally break our little hug, and we're standing there next to each other, and I've still got my arm around her, and she kind of pats me on the chest, and she's like, "Do you believe in like life after, or and she could barely get the words. I should like in after, and I'm like, in an afterlife?" And she's like, yeah. Do you believe in like life after death, or an afterlife, or heaven, or, like a sixth sense or anything like that? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. And, I'm not going to lie to somebody just to try to make them feel bad. And she asked, it wasn't like I walked in and said, "Oh, he's fucking gone. You'll never see him again. There's no afterlife. Everything is bullshit, blah, blah, blah." She asked, and I'm not going to lie to her.
Yeah.
To try to make her feel better about something. Like, her beliefs are her beliefs. She can believe whatever she wants, whatever. And I have no issue with that, as long as she's not harming anybody else or herself. But I think this particular belief is a bit harmful, because she says, "Do you believe in an afterlife?" And I said, "Me? Oh, no, absolutely not." And she's like, "Oh, well, I do." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Well, Lauren used to call me. He'd call like 25 times a day, even when he's on the road. He was just always calling me all throughout the day, and he'd call every single day, tons and tons of times throughout the day. And, we were earlier, we were sitting in here, and my phone started ringing, and I opened up my purse, and I pulled out my phone, and it was a call from Lauren." And she says, and, his daughter was here, and she said, "Oh, well, that's him just, calling like he always would to reassure you that everything's okay, and he's here with us." And they go into this, like, bullshit explanation of why they think this all happened.
Was she using the opportunity to try to proselytize?
No, I don't think she was, and I don't think the daughter was either. I think it was all intended to, try to placate people, try to make them feel a little bit better about what had happened. And, "Oh yeah, he's still here with us. He'll always be here." That kind of bullshit that religion feeds to people, right? And of course, if he typically called her multiple times per day, I'm sure that, and so here's the other thing, is that she also had his phone with her in her bag, apparently.
Okay.
And so, if he typically called her multiple times a day, every single day, of course, in the call log history, her number would be the first one if there was a, like, has she never heard of a fucking butt dial?
Yeah.
And I didn't say any of this to her, and she may even hear this later. And it's like, if you do, Linda, understand that I love you, and I'm not trying to belittle you or your beliefs. This is my opinion, and I hope you'll take it in the caring way that it's intended for me to just say that I understand that people would maybe want to hold on to those types of beliefs because it makes them feel better, but it's still not true. And so you have to decide, do you care more about what is true or what is going to make you feel good? And how long will that make you feel good? Because her grandfather for 90 years has felt pretty safe and secure in his religious beliefs, and now they're failing him. Other people, it would fail them much earlier in life. So how long do you hold on to a belief that ultimately you have no evidence for, you can't prove is true, you're believing it in spite of having no evidence for it, you're relying on faith to believe in something that you want to believe, and now that's dashed, and you're making up other things to try to support this belief that you want to cling on to and that you want to hold on to. And that's damaging. That's harmful because you're not living in reality.
Yeah.
You're divorced from the world that we all live in together.
There's like, for showing how harmful it is, I can remember a few years ago where there was a story of a younger child, I want to say between like 8 and 12, I can't remember the exact age, but one of their parents had passed away. The kid killed himself and wrote in the suicide note that they wanted to be with their parent.
Yeah.
Because they felt that, dad's dead, I want to go be with dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to kill myself in order to go to heaven and be there with dad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's why a lot of religions teach that suicide's
bad,
yeah.
But maybe they hadn't gotten to that lesson for that kid yet.
Damn it, if only they'd gone to church, it was the topic for that Sunday's talk.
I mean, that happens where someone might off themselves like, well, I just want to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to get out of this world and go to the next one now.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that everybody walking around the funeral home and during their little, a bunch of different people got up and gave little speeches about fond memories they had of Lauren and the lives that they had spent with him and different experiences that they had.
And that is the afterlife.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Is the afterlife that we live and experience together is only during this life.
Yeah.
And it's the memories that we have of time spent with each other.
Yeah.
Not the promise of some imaginary afterlife.
That's how I've always said. I'm like, people live on through the stories that we tell about that person. It's not, there's no actual, you don't go anywhere physical, no metaphysical, no crazy fucking place. It's all the stories that you remember, the memories being passed down. And
yeah,
that's how I always considered what an actual real afterlife would be.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I heard, he's in a better place now.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. Oh, yeah? Was there a fucking reason that he had to die so horrifically?
Yeah.
That he had to know for who knows how long and experience this abject horror, this piercing terror of knowing that he's dying for how long as he crawls up the stairs, leaving bloody handprints everywhere, and ultimately dying at the top of the stairs only to be discovered by his wife later, who's now
horrified by having to find him.
Yeah, who now has absolutely no idea what to do with the rest of her life and feels a great deal of responsibility for their death. What is the point of that? What kind of good God makes that kind of bullshit fucking happen?
Yeah. And now she will probably definitely have some sort of post-stress from this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Either seeing it, reliving that moment over and over, and
yeah. It's just it was a whole bad deal. And I don't know. I love everybody involved, and it just the pernicious influence of religion in all of this. Like Hitchens said, religion poisons everything. There's nothing that isn't poisoned by belief in magical bullshit. It's just really frustrating. The other thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit about this, was brought into stark relief because of all of this, is just how broken our medical system and insurance system here in the United States is. Because he had surgery on his fucking neck.
A spinal surgery.
Yeah, spinal surgery where they fused vertebrae together and they boot him out of the hospital the next day because that's all his insurance would cover. Yeah. And he ends up dying at home because he wasn't under a doctor's care.
from something that could have been, hey, an alarm going off. Hey, he's bleeding internally. Let's get him, open him up, find the bleed, close it up.
Yeah. Where he could have been, in his hotel or not hotel, in his hospital bed, pushing a button to call for a nurse to come in and check on him and realize there's something wrong, get him immediate medical attention.
Or where orderlies are actually doing hourly rounds, checking on you every hour. You're hooked to monitors. So if your blood pressure is dropping too low, if your pulse is rising too fast, like, oh shit, something's wrong with this guy, and alarm goes off and you're in there. Yeah.
And instead, insurance companies interfere with what doctors would recommend as the best course of care for their patients and say, no, we know that, by looking at historical averages of post-surgery trauma and death, we know that, if we take a look at all of the numbers and we extend the hospital stay for these people by even an additional day, well, that's going to cost a whole lot more than any potential lawsuits that we may face from wrongful death suits or anything like that. And just as a way to ensure that we reduce our liability and reduce our risk of any lawsuits prior to surgery and prior to discharge of any patients, we're also going to make them sign a bunch of forms that say basically you have no legal right to come after us for any potential wrongdoing or early release from the hospital. That, if you die horrifically after we release you or boot you out of the fucking hospital because your insurance company won't pay any more for you to stay here under a doctor's care, you're going to have no means of seeking remuneration or becoming whole again after death, or if there are any other consequences of your surgery that are deleterious to your health, because we're making you sign all of these forms that basically now you have no legal recourse to come after us for anything.
Oh, and by the way, if something happens afterwards, there's a complication with the surgery and you do die, you still owe us money.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still going to send you a bill for, $10,000, $15,000 for the one day that you were in the hospital.
And that's because right around the break, I looked up online at the .gov or health.gov. Mm-hmm. I put my phone down. It's the government website for healthcare. I think it was healthcare.gov. Yeah, it was that one. Because it actually had the date for how much longer you had to sign up for healthcare. An average 3-day in the hospital was $30,000, $10,000 a day.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And insurance companies have crunched the numbers and figured out that if they want to save money or earn enough money or return more on their investors, or if they want to return more of their profits to investors, that no, we should kick people out after one day of care, because really, the chance of them dying is diminished, and we're going to make them sign a bunch of waivers anyway, so that if something happens, well, it's not really our fault. They can't come after us. So we only want to pay for the absolute bare fucking minimum that we have to in order to make sure that this person is stable enough to leave the hospital without dying in the parking lot.
Yeah. I mean, I could rent an exotic car for a month for how much it costs to stay in that hospital for one day.
Mm-hmm. It's disgusting. And we live in an industrialized, advanced nation that shouldn't have to put a price tag on the health of its citizens.
Or do like what Paul Ryan was doing, putting out the thing like, oh, you guys really want to pay that $32 billion over 10 years for healthcare? Which failed miserably because everybody kept going like, yeah, we would rather pay the $32 billion over the next 10 years than $60 billion over the next 10 years that we're already paying out of our own pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, motherfucker, give us socialized healthcare. Because we're paying way too much fucking money for privatized healthcare right now.
And we've talked about it on previous shows where, me personally, I pay I think between my medical, dental, vision, and what is the other? Some other insurance policy that I have. Oh, there's my main medical for the family, and then the vision, and then I've got 2 separate dental plans because at the time, because insurance won't fucking pay for orthodontia unless you've had that insurance for a certain number of years.
Yeah.
It was all a complicated thing. Anyway, between all of the insurance policies that I have and that I pay for, my out-of-pocket costs alone to cover me and the family is right around $750 a month.
Yeah.
And that's just my portion of it. And my employer pays a larger portion of that. So we're talking about probably $2,000 a month
for one person.
For
one family.
That covers the family.
And then if you actually have to go and use your insurance, if you need to go see a doctor, well, here you got to pay a $50 copay there. Oh, you got to pay another $100 for that surgery. Oh, no, you got to pay for your medication.
Yeah, you've got to meet your plan deductible, which ranges depending on whatever coverage that you've got.
$10,000.
Then you've got to go through the hassle of fucking. Oh, and then I've got my flexible spending account that will help. That sets aside money pre-tax.
But you got to use it within that year.
Yeah, I got to use it within that year, and it has to be, I can buy over-the-counter medications and submit them for reimbursement, but I have to now get a fucking prescription from my doctor for an over-the-counter medication in order to get reimbursement for that through my FSA, and any copays that I have to pay when I go for doctor's visits. Well, I also have to send in those receipts to get compensation or reimbursement to get my own money back
that you put in
that
to help cover
I put in
healthcare
for
costs.
this, and then you have to pay, like 10% or however much for every hospital visit and doctor visit until you meet your annual, not copay. You said it earlier.
You got copay.
Deductible.
Deductible.
Until you meet your annual deductible, at which point then the insurance company will kick in and pay whatever percentage they're going to. And then you got to keep track of all these fucking bills. And it's just, what a pain in the ass. Dude, I would easily pay, I would be happy to have the price that I pay for insurance go up. Make me pay $1,000 a month, as long as I didn't have to go through all the fucking paperwork and hassle of dealing with all of the billing bullshit that goes along with it. That's well worth my fucking time.
And to know that when you go to the hospital and you get surgery or anything done, you don't owe any more money.
Right. It's not going to bankrupt me or my family if some health emergency happens. If I get in a car accident, my family's not going to have to declare bankruptcy to keep me alive.
It's like I even had a buddy a few years ago had to go in for kidney stone. He actually had to have his kidney stone surgically blasted or whatever. They take a laser and they...
I had that done, yeah.
Ooh, sounds horrible.
It was really fucking terrible.
But the doc said, hey, if you pay this much up front, that covers the cost. Mm-hmm. If you go through the insurance and you got to pay this, it might be a higher cost going through the insurance when we can just pay up front. He's like, okay, cool. I'll pay it up front. Well, he didn't realize was the doctor wasn't submitting anything to insurance. So he paid the doctor up front. Well, then he gets a bill from the anesthesiologist. Now he owes the anesthesiologist a bill. Then he gets a bill from the hospital. Now he owes the hospital money. He's like, I thought I had to pay $3,000 up front. Done.
Yeah.
No. That was just for the doctor.
Yeah.
That wasn't for the anesthesia. So the doctor didn't submit it to the healthcare, to his insurance.
And so that doesn't go against his deductible.
So now he's got to pay the anesthesiologist wants their money. Well, it was never submitted to the insurance company, so they're going to him for the money. The hospital wants their money for the stay there. He's like, I thought I would be paying $3,000. Done. Settled. We're good to go. Nope.
And it's the whole idea and concept of putting a price tag on somebody's health.
Yeah.
Oh, you were born with a congenital heart defect? Well, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah.
Oh, you tripped and fell down the stairs and got a concussion, some lacerations, broke a couple ribs. Fuck you, pay me.
I had a buddy whose daughter was born with hydrocephalus. Mm-hmm. And she had to get the tubes in her brain and drain all the fluid out when she was a kid. And then it's reoccurred to her at least twice as far as I remember, where she's had swelling on the brain again, had to go back in, tubes. And each time she had to relearn how to walk, go through physical therapy, relearn how to talk again because it would crush her brain and it's like having a stroke.
Yeah.
You have to relearn how to do everything afterwards. And one day he goes, I will never in my life be able to pay off her hospital bills.
Oh, no.
Never.
Yeah.
He goes, I will die paying on her hospital bills. I was like, holy shit. And before the Affordable Care Act passed, he was worried she wasn't going to be able to go to the hospital anymore. Because she's already reached $1 million and she's only 12.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, too. The insurance companies will do is impose lifetime maximums that they will pay for anybody.
Which are gone now, but who knows? It could come back. And she's just a young child, and she's already reached her lifetime maximum for healthcare expenditures because she was born with the defect.
Well, God had a plan, Ryan. And that plan was to bankrupt her family and make her suffer through all these trips to the hospital and having to relearn things over and over.
But that shouldn't be the case.
No, it shouldn't
be at all. Because a lot of other countries have figured it out and it wasn't too fucking hard.
Yeah. And ultimately, it ends up saving the government and the populist money, because you don't have people waiting until their health conditions deteriorate to the point where it's much more expensive and costly, expensive and costly, the same thing, where it's much more expensive and time consuming to deal with these issues, and to where they may not even be able to solve it. They're just going to be basically putting a Band-Aid over whatever malady that you have in order to send you home and get you back to.
Well, then half the time it's the actual insurance company where the doctors go, hey, will your insurance cover this? That's going to determine whether you're getting this surgery or not. Mm-hmm. It's not, hey, do I need the surgery? Well, yes, you need it, but we're going to ask your insurance company if they'll pay for it. And if you can pay for it, if they don't cover it and you can't pay for it, well, guess what? We're not having that surgery.
Yeah.
Unless you're dying here on the table, we don't have the obligation to do surgery on you.
Yeah. Going back real quick to my conversation with Lauren's wife, Linda, at the funeral home, I remembered that I had a conversation with Tracy about it afterward. And I said, it just, like, I didn't offer my opinion on anything. She asked me point blank, do I believe? And I wasn't going to lie to her. I said, no, absolutely, I do not. And, she told her a little story about getting the call, and then they related it later when they were doing their, a couple different people mentioned it while they were talking, when they get up and give their little talk during the viewing. And I said, it's really easy to figure out how that could have fucking happened. Like, we have both phones there. We can look at the call log. We can see if they were locked, what time the call was placed. Like, and then what happened before mobile phones were a thing? If somebody died, did the other person just have no fucking means of communicating with them? And then why would he choose a fucking mobile phone anyway? Why would that happen? Like, any tiny little bit of skeptical thought about this, any critical thought about this, for even 30 fucking seconds, it completely disintegrates. But she was so convinced. She was, and it made her, it gave her some feeling of relief, some little respite, which I understand why she needed that, but ultimately she's choosing to believe a lie and then not even want to spend any time investigating it. Like,
don't question it.
Yeah, don't question it. Just run with whatever makes you feel better at the moment. And I get that. I understand why. I understand the desire, the need, the drive for people to want to do that at the time when they're grieving, and they don't want to have to look into it. They don't want to think about it. But it also makes you look like an ignorant fool when you start talking about that shit to other people. And later, when you do stop to think about it, are you going to go back to the people that you mentioned that to previously and say, I, in a moment of weakness and grief, I said something that really was pretty fucking stupid. And I just wanted to let you know, I looked at this later and this is what happened. No, of course not. Nobody ever, or, well, I can't say never, ever, but it is so tiny as to be basically never that anybody actually does that they get to the root of what actually happened that they initially thought was some kind of supernatural phenomenon. They don't go back and tell everybody else that, oh, no, wait, you remember that thing that I told you last week or a month ago or 5 years ago? No, I figured it out and it was this. What I told you before was wrong, so I'm trying to set you straight now. And then how many of those people, even when and if that happens, and they go and talk to those people and say, oh, no, I was wrong, how many of those people will go, oh, no, I still believe that it was this other thing?
Most of them.
Because that's what I want to believe. Yeah.
Billy still believes Bigfoot's out in the woods.
Yeah. It's the same. I mean, and we see the same thing with Trump and political figure. Anybody that somebody holds up to a higher standard and doesn't want to scrutinize, they let them get away with really horrific fucking things because they will never, ever accept any bit of evidence saying that the person that they want to believe one thing about is any different.
They're infallible. They can do no wrong.
Yeah. A person's just like Jesus.
Even when they want to have their own state-run TV network.
It's frustrating and sad. And like I said, the past couple of weeks have been filled with joy and happiness and wonderful time spent with family members. And also some really, really low points and really frustrating, maddening things that have happened that if I didn't have empathy and didn't have compassion and didn't love and care about the people in question, I could have easily said, that's fucking stupid. I could have, when she mentioned that to me in the funeral home, I could have said, no, I don't believe it all. Why are you asking? Oh, well, because I got this mystery phone call and it said that it was from Lauren and I just know that it was him calling me from beyond the grave to let me know that everything's okay and he's okay and he's still going to be here around with us. And I could have just said, well, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've heard in a long goddamn time.
Or he could have just asked, what kind of iPhone they got there in heaven? They got the iPhone 20 yet?
How is he dialing? I mean, can ghosts reach into your purse? Like, they can penetrate the outer portion of your purse, but for some reason
vision.
They can, the tactile feel of the phone is able to pick up on spirit impulses in order to dial your fucking
They
phone
just
number.
zip around in the microchips in the processors and make it dial.
But atheists are assholes, right? we're the ones just smashing everybody's hopes and dreams, and that's not at all it. We
do believe in the phenomenon of butt dialing.
Yeah. I personally
or purse dialing, whatever.
My personal anecdotal experience is that butt dialing occurs, but yeah, it was just really frustrating.
Hey, all you dirty cis people out there who think you run the world. This is the trans podcaster, Marissa Alexa McCool, coming to say that you should go sit in the corner and listen to other people talk. And the people you should listen to are the Godless Rebelution folks, because they're the good kind of cis people. We don't have to shame them just as much. So you go ahead and listen to them, and then you come listen to us so we can tell them why they need to apologize.
And I'd urge you to look at those of you who tell you, those people who tell you at your age that you're dead till you believe as they do. What a terrible thing to be telling to children. And that you can only live. And that you can only live by accepting an absolute authority. Don't think of that as a gift. Think of it as a poisoned chalice. Push it aside, however tempting it is. Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody who has rated the show on iTunes and Stitcher and are following us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And to all our Patreon patrons, you make the show possible.
So one other development that I learned about while we were on our little break after recording last time was that one of my children came out as being non-binary. They are a member of the trans community.
Oh, okay.
And this is something that I've kind of seen coming for a while. It's Lydia, my youngest child, sent a text message to all of the family members that she had a phone number for, and basically just said, that while I said she, and I'm still trying to adjust, and we've all been big supporters of the trans community and everything, but it's something that I struggle with initially when somebody comes out as non-binary or trans and tells me what their pronouns are. I still fuck up all the time, and it's something that I just need to get used to, and it's getting more easy, but I still fuck up and will say she or her.
Yeah.
And I just, it takes a period. There's a period of adjustment there for sure. And that's fine. And I'm doing my best, and everybody else is as well. But she sent a text message to everybody and then posted it to Facebook as well and said, while I'm already having a tough emotional day, I might as well clear some stuff up for my family. I discuss this issue in vague terms often, but I'd like to be explicit here. I'm non-binary. I don't identify as a woman or a man. My pronouns are they, them. This technically falls under the trans umbrella because I don't identify with the gender I was assigned at birth. My friends are all aware of this, but I've avoided having this discussion with my family for fear of not being accepted. My identity is real and valid, as are my pronouns, and I won't stand for these things being questioned or invalidated now that you're aware. If you have any questions, I'm here, and so is Google. Google will probably reply more quickly.
I like that.
So
that's
they're
good.
They've always been very funny. And when I got this text message from them, I I'm pretty sure it was early in the morning or later in the evening. Anyway, we were in the bedroom and I saw it, and oh no, it was during the afternoon and it was a work day, and Tracy was in her office and I saw it and I just instantly replied, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but I figured this was coming. You know, I've loved you since the day you were born and I always will. And, you know, thank you for letting us all know. And then later when I saw Tracy, I'm like, oh, I'm guessing you saw Lydia's text message. And she's like, oh yeah. And she said, I think she said I replied and whatever, but I think Lydia was expecting a lot more problem or drama.
More hostility.
But yeah, she received absolutely none from anybody on my side of the family yet.
Well,
I mean, my dad may be an asshole about it. Yeah. I don't know. He didn't reply to to their text message. But I don't know if he even has text messaging available on his
flip phone.
Yes, but he's also on Facebook, and so
on a flip phone. No.
Well, no, but he also has a Facebook account that he looks at occasionally and comments on things even more rarely, and my grandmother is on Facebook fairly often, so I'm sure that she has seen it, and I haven't heard anything from either one of them. But remember last year around Christmas time, I had it was for my grandma's birthday party in July, so it's been like a year and a half, but we were at my grandmother's birthday party, and one of my cousin's children came out as trans, and my dad sidled up next to me at the party and said some bullshit about, yeah, see that kid down there? Well, apparently, what was it? I think it was a trans woman or trans woman. And so my dad made some shitty comment about, oh yeah, see that down there? Apparently he has decided that he is now a she. And I said, don't say that kind of shit around me. Like, don't say that. Don't say that shit. And he turned to me like, oh yeah, right. And I was like, no, don't say that ignorant shit around me. And he just clammed up, and we haven't talked about it since then. And I haven't seen that he's posted any reply to this, but I think she may have been expecting some blowback from family, but as far as I have seen, she hasn't gotten, they haven't gotten any.
Yeah.
And when I asked them about it, when they were over here for, Thanksgiving, they said that they haven't, the only thing that, so there's a particular member well, not really my family anymore, of her family, who is Jehovah's Witness and has said some things in the past. But Lydia said that the only thing that particular family member replied to their text message or anything was just, okay. So I think that's going all right. And they've been having some other difficulties. They recently broke up with their boyfriend, and so, but she seems to be doing okay. I haven't really talked to her since I haven't really talked to them, and I said goddamn, see, it's Lydia has for the past 21 years been my daughter, and it's taking some adjustment, but I'm and it's not that I have an issue with it. It's adjusting to the use of different pronouns, but, and I mentioned that when I replied to them that I figured this was coming. Yeah. Because I've noticed that they stopped wearing makeup regularly, started dressing much more ambiguously, and had changed their pronouns on Facebook a long time ago. And, when in talking to Tracy about it, I said, I've kind of figured this was coming because of all of these indicators that I've seen along the way. And Tracy said, oh, well, I thought it was just kind of a solidarity thing. And I'm like, well, but have you noticed this and this and this and this? And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And so, like I said, when I replied to them, I said, I've just kind of seen this coming, but so it's been a little while. And I was going to say that I don't know if any of our listeners have noticed, but I've started referring to just people in general as they and them. And it's kind of funny noticing people's reactions to that and their automatic assumptions to what they believe the gender of the person is that I'm speaking about. Like a while back, I was complaining about the person at work who was just a total fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And because I was using they and them and I said asshole, everybody figured, I think even you figured that it was a guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was this horrible woman that I work with.
We're more likely to be assholes.
Well, sure. But so I try not to use gender specific things unless, I mean, sometimes I do still, but.
Did you hear about, I think it was Celine Dion's non-binary clothing line?
No.
Oh, apparently it's of the devil.
According to?
I think it was Pat Robertson's wife.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I think she's one who said it's Satan's doing this.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, that's now God's going to send another tsunami to wipe out Haiti because apparently
I know.
They made a deal with the devil.
The only thing is like the picture that had the babies and the like newborns in the crib.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's just black clothing and white clothing. That's it. Like it's kind of yeah.
Well, so when we got this text message from Lydia, it was the day before. I think it was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So we get this, and then Tracy's uncle dies. And then we've still got to have Thanksgiving and Lydia and Gray and Danica and the whole family's over here. And, so when we got this message from Lydia, Tracy had a conversation, like I told you that I can't remember if it was I think it was during the break. I told you that her family has this chat thing on Facebook where they talk to each other all the time. Anyway, Tracy had conversations with her family members about it. First, she talked to her brother and sister-in-law who are staying here, kind of explained to them what it means. And they're fairly liberal people from California, and she had to explain what non-binary was to them, and then had a little bit of a concern about explaining it to another one of her brothers. And she's like, oh, they were fine. It was just, oh, okay. Because her other brother is a little more conservative and still a really nice and fun guy to be around. But yeah, definitely on the more conservative side of Utah stuff and politics and beliefs in general.
Well,
but also isn't religious. Kind of a conservative apatheist.
Okay. Which they're allowed to be.
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. You do you, bro.
Did he vote Trump?
I think he did.
Ah, motherfucker.
There's been some, there are a couple members of the family who we've found out through one means or another that they voted for Donald Trump. And it's like, I have lost a lot of respect for you as a person. And I'm going to shit talk about that person whenever you're over here. I'm going to be passive aggressive about this shit.
Well,
because if you don't hear this stuff from us, you obviously didn't hear enough about it before the election to dissuade you from voting, from making that horrible decision. So we need to, offer you a little bit more education as far as politics go to help you understand that what you did was fucking terrible.
It's just, if they stand by their vote, I'm like, are you not paying attention to this buffoon?
Yeah. What is it about this fucking ass clown that you like, that appeals to you personally?
And if you're going to go say Obama destroyed the country over the last 8 years, look at the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And, well, which numbers are we going to look at? Are we going to look at economics? Are we going to look at our relationships with other countries? Or are we going to look at the number of criminal indictments handed down?
All of them.
Against people in the fucking administration?
All of those numbers. Every single one of them.
All of them indicate that the current occupant of the White House is a fucking clown. He's going down. Yesterday when Cohen pled guilty to that whole deal. Oh my. And I mean, they had everybody basically assumed that the unnamed co-conspirator was Donald Trump, but they explicitly said so during his.
Well, that and saying Trump Jr. also lied to you because I was fucking there, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I just hope this all ends with all of them behind bars, in orange, behind bars, penniless and shamed for the rest of their lives.
Presidents have been indicted and subpoenaed, and what's the last thing that happens? Where they try to kick you out of office? Impeached. Yeah. Over way less.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, it's going, and this is just the first little tip of the iceberg, or the shitberg, that we're now seeing.
Oh, and I also think he should definitely not be allowed to fucking write in his answers to the Mueller investigation.
Well, there's been some speculation that maybe that maybe Mueller was playing 3D chess and knew that Manafort was not really going to cooperate, and so he was feeding him disinformation about the investigation that he knew Manafort or Manafort's attorneys would report back to Trump and Trump's attorneys.
Oh.
And so that's how they know that he was lying, and that's how they know that he was, conspiring with them and still lying to the FBI and breaking his deal and all of that. And I'm like, maybe, but either way, he still is going to go to prison for a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but just because Trump was saying that he had answered Mueller's questions in written form,
and I did it all by myself like a big boy. Yeah,
which should not be allowed, because it's kind of like,
I didn't need anybody's help with it, and then I got a gold star, and everybody was very pleased. Many people told me that they were pleased. It was really, frankly, I don't think anybody's given better answers before in probably the history, definitely, of the United States of America.
Especially the guy with the pen in his hand. He was very pleased with my answers. Because I don't trust that.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't trust it?
Well, he can have a team of advisors to advise him on what to say, to write.
But I didn't need him. I did it all by myself like a big boy.
Which we know is bullshit. But if he actually has to sit down in front of a panel and answer questions, we know he's not going to be able to hold his shit together.
The people who, well, I was just, as you were talking, I was like, God, that reminds me a lot of religion, because he lies all the fucking time. Like, there's no way to tell if what he says is true, because he lies so consistently and so often. But the people who absolutely love him, they'll deny that a lot of the things that he says are lies. And then they'll also say that, he was lying about that, but he's telling the truth about this other thing over here, because it's what they want to personally believe about him and what they want to personally believe about the things that he's doing. They're not looking at it objectively and looking at the evidence behind the things that he's saying. They're saying, oh no, well, that was just puffery, or that was him.
That's not what he meant.
That was hyperbole. That was him exaggerating a little bit, but we all get the gist of what he was saying. But this other thing, that's totally, absolutely true.
Yeah.
Until they find out that it's not in his, sure, maybe it was an exaggeration, but look at all these other things that he's doing. It's like, well, how do you know what the fuck he's doing? Because he lies about everything. Yeah. How do you know anything that he's done? Like, what are you looking at to believe that he's doing good?
Well, and then he calls the troops in Afghanistan to tell them the best thing that's happened for them is him.
I'm the greatest. That's amazing. My boss did something similar to me today on the phone.
What?
Yeah, so there's some other news about my work that may be coming here shortly that is potentially very exciting. So I was talking to my boss today, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, and if this happens, then I could still be your boss, which would be terrific for you." I started laughing, and I'm like, seriously? Did you just tell me how awesome it would be for me if you were still my boss? Like, I'm like, I don't disagree with you. Like, I'm on the phone with him and I'm telling him all this. I'm like, I don't disagree with you. I think you're a good boss, but I just think it's awesome and kind of hilarious that
I'm like, isn't that a little narcissistic?
You feel comfortable enough to tell me on the phone directly that you think that it would be a great thing for me personally if you were still my boss. Like, that's just how you roll. That's how fucking cool you are. He started laughing. He's like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did say that. That was kind of funny. But yeah, it's political religious worship.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's a so the Utah Atheists Facebook group. Yeah, I go through periods where I'm really involved in it and others where I'm not. And, I used to be a moderator for it. I used to,
every other comment would be, Dan Ellis, look at this. Dan Ellis, look at this. Dan Ellis, look at this. Dan Ellis.
Well, I think when I can remember when it was, like under 300 members in there, and now it's over 4,000. And it just got to be way too time consuming and too political for a nonprofit organization to be involved with it. And just, aside from the politics of it, there was just the drain on the board's time and trying to moderate everything and control it all. But every now and then you'll get a conservative atheist in there, and it happens, fairly regularly because we're here in Utah, and there's
a lot more people
it's a very conservative state. Yeah. And so as more people join the group, of course, more conservatives join, and then they end up making a stink, and it turns into a big hullabaloo.
Yeah, those are those ones where I see them like, wow, 800 comments must have been something good.
Yeah. And so every now and then you'll have somebody who decides to go in and start flaming the group and everybody else in there because they're conservative, and you're all just a bunch of soy boy cucks in here, left-wing liberal idiots who don't fucking understand anything. And you have to, you're all this PC brigade who's going to shout down and censor anybody else who you disagree with. And it's like, no, you can say whatever you want as long as you follow the rules of the group. And the rules of the group don't have a liberal bent or bias. These are like everybody has to follow them.
Yeah. And
if you can't manage to do that because you're a fucking stupid asshole, then you can get the fuck out of the group. Like, you don't have to be here. Nobody's forcing you to be a member of the group. And if you don't like it, then get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be here. You weren't born into this Facebook group and have no means to get out of here. Like, you can just click leave and that's it.
Well, you can click leave and go, hey, there's something cool I can do on Facebook. I can go over this thing that says create group.
Yeah, you can create your
own
group.
And then I can make a conservative atheist group so I can talk to other like-minded people, which is what the atheists of Utah is, just talk to like-minded people.
Yeah. Well, and apparently there is a conservative Utah atheist group also that I kind of view it as like the island of misfit toys, that it's a bunch of assholes who have gotten kicked out of the Utah atheists group or got pissed off at all those left-wing libtards being PC cucks over in the regular group, and so I'm going to start my own, and we can start talking about how stupid the other group of people are.
Well, speaking of cucks,
yeah,
the guy who started the Proud Boys,
McGinnis, yeah,
Gavin, yeah, he's trying to go to Australia. They won't allow him in the country.
Was he keystering something? Oh, okay.
They won't allow. No, he's just going to Australia. He's trying to get a visa to go to Australia.
Yeah,
they won't allow him in the country.
Nice.
But then on the other hand, I know you're not a big fan of Joe Rogan.
I don't know. I like Joe Rogan. I think he's wrong about a whole lot of stuff.
Well, because
I think he's a generally nice guy, but he's really wrong about a lot of things.
Well, because he was talking about the dude. I just forgot his name. Gavin
McGinnis. Yeah.
He's talking about Gavin. He's like, I've been friends with Gavin for a long time. Gavin is a professional troll.
He says that about everybody who's a giant fucking asshole.
Well, because he goes, I was talking to Gavin when he started this whole Proud Boy joke on stage. Like, he was doing a routine with some people. He made up the Proud Boys as a joke. It wasn't even supposed to be a real fucking thing. He goes, then some people took it and ran with it. And he's like, okay, people are running with this funny fucking thing I said. Let's let him do it. And then then Gavin like, oh, all of a sudden now he's the leader of the Proud Boys. And he's like, okay, I made the joke. Let's fucking roll with it. Let's see where this leads. And it didn't lead anywhere good. And he's like, Gavin never meant to create the Proud Boys. He goes, he made an offhand comment on like try to be stupid and funny about something. Other people took it, ran with it.
Well, and so is Gavin. So that's kind of a bullshit thing to say.
Well, yeah.
And I'm sure he may not have been, he may not have set out to create the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
But it happened and he rolled
with it. Yeah. And that's what he's like. I think you're trying to say he's like, I'm friends with Gavin. I know Gavin away from entertainment.
I know his heart, and he's just not that much of an asshole.
Well, he didn't say he wasn't an asshole. He just says, I know how he is away from entertainment and the way he is on TV.
Yeah.
He goes, his whole thing is he just loves being a fucking asshole. Like, that is his shtick.
Why? Why would you want to live your life as the asshole? And why would you want to associate with somebody who that is their thing, is to be an asshole?
Because he hangs out with comedians. Some are assholes, some are cokeheads.
But that's still
he associates
like, you don't have to associate with those people.
Well, I think with Joe Rogan has done enough psychedelic drugs to just be like, I'm friends.
It's all cool,
it's
man.
All cool.
We're all
I'm
here.
friends
it's
with
the human
everyone.
Experience. Yeah.
I think that's how I view Joe. That's how I view him.
Yeah.
And the way
because that's what you want to believe?
No, just the way, because the way he interacts with people, like, he doesn't, like, when he brings guests on that he could easily slam for some shit, which he's slammed on this podcast before.
Yeah.
He's genuinely just really nice to him. Like, okay, let's talk.
He seems genuine. Like, when he has people in studio, he seems genuinely interested in having a conversation with them. But then he gets people on there
that he really
I'm trying to think, like Brett Weinstein or Jordan Peterson or anybody else who's like the alt-light.
Yeah.
And I think that's when a lot of the inner true Rogan shows up, where it's like, no, dude, you're still kind of a misogynist douchebag who, it's great that you put on this other face when you have other people on there and you seem like you're genuinely interested in dialogue with them and you want to get their points out and everything. But then you get somebody else on there who's a fucking dude bro, and you guys just bro down and you're fucking douches while you're doing the show. And you say a bunch of, really terrible things that are demonstrably false, but that you still fucking repeat over and over. Like, why don't you tell us again about how the moon landing was fake, Joe? Jesus fucking Christ, man.
He changed his mind on that.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. Well, there's still some things that are really questionable about it.
Well, because that came up on a Flat Earth episode where he's like, I changed my mind on the moon. I believe it actually happened now, but this Flat Earth shit, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's like Bill Maher saying that he no longer believes that vaccines are bad, but, the flu shot, you really don't need that. And really, do we need all these vaccines? Like, so you've moderated the things that you're saying now, but it's clear that you still don't actually know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. So I listen to Rogan's show most of the time. I don't listen to it when it's the MMA stuff or if he's got some guest on there talking about fucking bow hunting or whatever. But, when he's got Harris on there, or he's got, Neil deGrasse Tyson, or when he's got Yvette or, Cy Babe or, other people that I'm interested in, then I listen to it because it's generally a good and interesting conversation. But when he's got, he'll have fucking Ted Nugent on there. And I listened to that episode and just cringed the whole fucking time. Just like, God damn it. Why? Like, I was interested because I wanted to hear more just from Ted Nugent, but it was just, God, the guy's so fucking stupid. And Rogan
was being nice to him the whole time.
Yeah, he is. And I understand that. And I think Rogan is fairly intelligent, but he's still like, he thinks he's a lot more intelligent than he is. I think.
I'd agree with that. I think we all do in a way.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I think I'm fairly intelligent. I think that, but there are a lot of people that I feel really fucking stupid around. But I want to hang out with those people. I want to learn from those. Like, there are a lot of people I know who are also fairly intelligent, but then they associate, much like Joe Rogan does, with a bunch of other people who are just fucking dummies. And they agree with them a lot of the time, and they start talking about the stupid things that these other dummies believe, and they start believing it, or it's something that they have believed and now they're just, putting a voice to it. And it's like, I want to be around people who are much more intelligent than I am so that I can learn more from them. I don't want to be the teacher of people. I don't want to be the king of dipshit hill. I'd much rather be the person climbing the hill of intelligence toward more reason and understanding.
Yeah. Which is why with Joe Rogan in his stand-up, I'm like, I agree with 90% of what he says in his stand-up.
Yeah.
And if his stand-up was true to himself, he'd be pushing back on a lot of these people he has on his show, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I wish he kind of would, but that would totally go against his style of podcast.
And he's had a few episodes where he has pushed back against people, but
I hear him push back on people more when they're not on the show than when they're on the show. I've heard him go back before and talk about, remember when I had so-and-so? Yeah, you said this fucking quacky shit and stuff. But when the guy was on the show, he was going along with what the guy was saying. But behind the guy's back, when he's not on the show, he'll criticize him a little bit, but not
and then there's
slander or anything.
And then there's the whole issue of providing a platform to people who really just shouldn't have a platform from which to spout their awful bullshit. Like having Alex Jones. How many times has Alex Jones been on his fucking show?
I've only seen it the once where he got drunk and stoned on it.
He's been on there at least twice that I've heard of, and I think he's been on there maybe 2 or 3, maybe 2 other times beside that. And Rogan always talks about, oh, Alex is a great guy. He's a lot of fun to hang around with, and everything's like, no, the guy is a genuinely dangerous asshole who says a lot of really dangerous asshole-ish things. Why would you give that fucker a platform to say dangerous asshole-ish things? And you can giggle while he's getting stoned in your studio and say he says wild and crazy things and whatever, but why would you do that? Why would you? Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
I just hope people look at it the same way I looked at it, going, holy fuck, Alex Jones really is this crazy.
Yeah, it's not just an act. He's
really this crazy. Like, like there's some people on the news or do programs like, yeah, parts of it are acts.
Yeah.
Alex Jones is straight up.
He believes that shit.
He believes this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a genuine kook.
Hey, everybody, it's X from the Utah Outcasts podcast and YouTube channel, and you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
We know the equations that the electrons that are responsible for chemistry obey. And there's no ambiguity in these equations. They could always be wrong. It is always possible to say, well, we just don't know what is going on. That's fine. But what we have is the evidence of every experiment ever done telling us that these equations are correct. To overcome that, we would need very, very strong evidence. Just one experiment telling us how the soul is pushing around the chemicals in our brain, but we don't have that.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, criticisms, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrebelution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGR Podcast. Thank you!
Last up on the episode tonight, we have some listener feedback.
Is it feedback? Well, it's feedback.
It's feedback, and it was from somebody who listened to a show.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2, I don't know. But apparently they did this fairly recently. So we get this email from somebody identified as Rob. That's the only thing we have to go on. I looked up the provider for this person. Yeah.
Oh,
and apparently it's a Spanish or wherever this Chismoso is a Latin company.
Okay.
I don't know what country. I was just a very cursory, like, what is this? Like, I didn't know if it was his personal thing.
Like their last name, like people do their
last because name the email address was really easy. I mean, so you figure if it's a large provider, it's going to be like
a numbers in there.
Yeah, numbers or full name and whatever. And yeah, so we get this email, and it starts out pretty good.
Yeah.
Starts out fairly nice. It says, "Hi, guys. Was interested in your podcast since the title of it was Maybe Jordan Peterson is an Asshole, and yes, I think he is."
And this podcast was done June 21st?
No, June 1st.
June 1st.
Well, that's when it was released.
Yes. So
you figure,
a week before.
Yeah, a week before then. So it's been, a good
little while.
Like 6 months.
Yeah.
Since we recorded that episode.
Yeah.
So it always seems a little weird to me that people for some reason think that we would remember every single tiny little thing that we've mentioned in every episode.
I mean,
out of the, what are we on now?
260? No.
What? What episode is this that I mentioned at the beginning of the show? See, we can't even remember what we said during the fucking episode we're recording right now. Episode 229, and Jordan Peterson, I think, was like 208 or something like that. Like 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's been a little while.
Yeah. But so his email continues and says, but something got my attention. Northern Ireland being like North Carolina and South Carolina. And I have no idea what he's talking about. Like, I don't remember what we said. And I was, after reading this email and then going out and looking at the sources he, told us that we should check out. Like, I spent several hours looking into this bullshit that this guy sent to us. And so I wasn't about to go, like, after I did all of that, and then researched, who these people are that he's talking about and what are their motives, what's going on there. After doing all of that, I wasn't about to go back and listen to the episode from 6 months ago to see exactly what he's talking about, because it doesn't fucking matter, because this guy's just a fucking kook douchebag asshole.
And if I made the North Carolina, South Carolina comment, I could have just been making a really shitty analogy.
You could have been being Ryan.
I could have been being me.
So it says, his email continues and says, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, kind of like a colony. And then in parentheses, it says, as was the rest of Ireland before it gained its independence. And the Republic of Ireland is its own country, free and independent, yet part of the EU, which Northern Ireland soon will not be because of Brexit. This is an issue in and of itself. But a very short time ago, Northern Ireland was full of violence and violent repression on the part of the UK. Surprised you didn't know about this, but you guys are quite young. So, out of the gate, assuming that we don't know these things.
I know a person who personally lived through the wars in Ireland.
Yeah, as if we haven't heard about these things. Like,
I know what the IRA is. Yeah. I drank with them. I think I have.
And even if we weren't particularly attuned to and know the history, which we in fact do, it's in enough pop culture that even most lay people understand that, yes, there was a real problem between the Catholics and the Protestants.
Yeah.
And there was this whole war with IRA and
I know the zombie song.
Gun Runner. Have you not watched any Sons of Anarchy, sir?
But you know how long it took me to find out until watching the music video that song Zombie? That's what it's about.
Oh, really?
If you watch the music video, it's like, holy shit. They're showing like
from the Cranberry.
Yeah, they're showing like war shit in Ireland.
Zombie.
I was like, oh, okay. Huh.
And then he throws in even more condescension and says, but you guys are quite young, as if he knows how old we are. He's listened to one fucking episode. Did we mention how old we are?
Well, if you listen to the beginning of this one, he'll get an idea of how old we are.
Ah, right. But it suffices to say that there's a lot of information that you may be lacking, and you seem to come off as knowing it all, which doesn't play very well with some who might be your supporters. You might want to think about that.
I think we have thought about that. And
yeah, we have thought about that. And the show, we do relay, I think, a lot of good information.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever said that I know it all. And I hope I don't come across as knowing it all.
We correct our wrongs when we are wrong, and people that listen to this show know I say a lot of shit.
Everybody knows Ryan says a lot of things that he may or may not actually believe in. A lot of it is for comedic effect.
Yeah.
We all kind of play characters a little bit on the show, just like every other fucking show. But just the condescension in this guy's email, and just the fact that he later, I'll just continue reading. The other thing was about 5G. And I don't remember mentioning this is six fucking months ago.
I think we might have mentioned that the telephone company's like, what comes next? 5G, like 5G cell service, or maybe someone said 5G cell service is going to be dangerous to your health, and we're like, you fucking quack.
Yeah. I don't remember, and like I said, I wasn't about to go back after.
It's going to be 1G worse
after all this other stuff, and then interacting back and forth with this guy for a little bit. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to go back and waste any more of my time talking about this, except for on the show when we're going to mock him, because that'll be fun. Let's see. The other thing was about 5G, blah, blah, blah. Not all of the objections to certain technologies are just right-wing paranoia. 5G is being rolled out without any testing as to its effects on health, which is fucking bullshit. That's a fucking lie. But we're the ones who may need to know a little bit more about stuff. You should do a bit of research on it, ... Maybe start here. And he provides a link to ehtrust.org, which is the website created by Dr. Devra Davis. And no, it's not Deborah, it's Devra. Devra. Dr. Devra Davis.
From DeVry University? No.
Who is a fucking kook?
I didn't look up these links. I started reading through some of this. I read through this email. I'm like,
this guy's not worth my time.
Nah.
And Dan's like, oh, sure, I'll go and I'll find out maybe I've missed something. So then it says, and then he says, microwaves are not innocuous, not even our current cell phones and cell towers and Wi-Fi routers and adapters. Okay.
Well, they're all completely different things.
What do you mean?
Like they all work on different kind of
frequencies
and bandwidths. Otherwise, if you turned your microwave on, your Wi-Fi wouldn't fucking work. Actually, no, never mind. 'Cause your microwave, it contains the microwaves inside the microwave.
Most of it. There's some that comes out.
Okay.
There's some that leaks out, but not much. 5G is being rolled out without any testing to its effects. Microwaves are not innocuous. In some places in the world, Wi-Fi is being banned in schools, and for good reason.
Yeah, because they don't want kids on their fucking cell phone watching YouTube all fucking day.
Yeah, and there are places in the world where people are murdered because other people believe that they're fucking witches. That doesn't mean any fucking thing. That doesn't mean that what they believe is true. Just because you say that in other parts of the world people are fucking stupid, you should be as stupid as they are. Jesus Christ.
And then we get the electromagnetic frequency experts.com /Wi-Fi.html.
Uh-huh. In order to counter wingnut nonsense, your own knowledge has to be widened. Without doing that, you are just undermining your own cause and the cause of many more people who are affected by right-wing insanity.
Now, what do you mean by widened? Does that mean accept bullshit?
Yeah. Unless you believe the same things I do, then you're clearly not as open-minded as I am, sir.
Yeah. I didn't widen my brain enough because I trust 4G technology right now to make my cellular phone work.
And he finishes his email with a paragraph that says,
"Oh yeah,
you can make fun of Alex Jones, but Alex Jones is part right." And he hyphenates that for some reason.
I think he's making an alt-right joke.
Maybe, or I don't know. That is what makes him dangerous. You have to consider that at least 50% or more, which I think is implied by the whole concept of at least, of what he says is based in fact.
I would give Alex Jones 2%.
It's based in a language most people understand. I don't know that equates to fact. Then he twists and interprets it and makes it into a delicious wingnut dish. But if you just make fun of him without really digging into some of the information, and then
what information?
Then parenthetically he says, some of it you will not want to even touch since you are dealing with nefarious elements on both the right and, in scare quotes, left. And then he says, quotes, because there is no real capital left in the lowercase US to speak of anymore since the passing of people like Howard Zinn. It's all identity politics, ending his parenthetical insert. And then he ends it with, hopes this helps.
Yeah. I stopped reading when it got to Alex Jones is 50% right. I'm like, nope, I'm fucking done.
I'm out. I
didn't even read the last part of that paragraph. Here's what I'm thinking. This guy is a true Illuminati conspiracy theorist on that end of it.
I was wondering how many other kinds of conspiracy theories this guy believes in. Like, does he believe that, JFK was assassinated by some deep state plot? Yeah. Does he think the Illuminati exists? What about Area 51?
Yeah. And that's where I get the 50% from. If he believes Illuminati and all that kind of shit, I mean, that's where you get the 50% of Alex Jones is right.
So he sent that, and then, so I go out and I look at the links, and then he sent us an additional email, and in that one, it just says, so his email is basically just a link. It's just a YouTube link to this talk delivered by Dr. Devra Davis.
Yeah, then it says, worth listening to. It's not about 5G, it's about microwaves.
Yeah, the subject of the email says worth listening to. So I go out and I watch this stupid fucking video that's an hour long.
Yeah.
That I watched.
You watched the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole fucking thing and was pausing to go and look up information as she's presenting it.
So that's like 2 hours.
No, more than that.
Oh shit.
because it's searching for the information, reading through the information, finding information to say if this is true or not, and then going back to the video. So yeah, much more than 2 hours.
You closed off your mind and you fact checked.
Yeah. What an idiot I am. I'm so ignorant and closed-minded and only want to believe things that confirm my own current narrative. So I watched this whole fucking stupid goddamned video, went out and looked at a whole bunch of different resources, looked at the NIH and cancer organizations, through both World Health Organization, international organizations, the United States Cancer Institute, looked at a bunch of things from physicists about different types of radiation, ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, what's in our cell phones, when were cell phones first invented and put into popular use, how long have they been around, the technology behind them, the frequencies they act on, the improvements, the distance that radiation can travel, how much is output by phones of various makers and types throughout the time that they've been available for people, the rates of brain cancer, the rates of, all different types of cancer throughout the United States and worldwide, if they're going up or down since the advent of phones and their prevalent use throughout everywhere. And it's all fucking nonsense. It's fucking stupid bullshit nonsense that I wasted hours of my life on. Because of this fucking prick who sent us this goddamned email. Like, I understand people believe stupid things, right? But the arrogance with which this guy sent this email and the condescension was just way too fucking much for me to handle, to be like, oh, well, geez, if he's going to be such a fucking prick, maybe it's deserved. Maybe we did something really wrong. Fucking terrible, and I should go and make sure that we didn't, because this guy was such a fucking condescending, arrogant prick. No, it turns out that he's just a condescending, arrogant fucking prick. So I decided that I was going to reply to him. And this is after I sent you and Matt text messages just saying, I fucking went through that stupid goddamn email for Rob, spent hours of my life that I'll never get back.
And I knew exactly what you were talking about because I had read it earlier that day.
Yeah. And then I replied to his email, and the one that he sent that was just the link to the video and that's the other thing, is like, the subject of his email is longer than the fucking link that he sent us. The subject says, worth listening to. It's not about 5G, but the topic of microwaves is important to research and comprehend with an open mind. That's the subject of his email. Put that in the body, you stupid motherfucker. If you don't even know how to use email, god damn it. So then I just replied, after I watched the video, went through all these other resources, read a whole bunch of shit, honestly, I probably spent 5 fucking hours on this between the time that I read it initially, watched the video the first time, just kind of, in the background while I'm doing other things, and then sat down and actually watched it and paid attention and was, doing research when she'd make claims and she's posting different slides and everything, doing all of that. Yeah. Hours and hours of my fucking life. So I just responded back to that and said, no, this was not, quote, worth listening to. She's a kook. And then for his other email that was the longer email, my initial reply was just, maybe you should check some other sources. Perhaps not rely on what you hear from a single kook. Also, some semblance of modesty might protect you from conspiratorial thinking. And sorry, I've been yelling a little bit. My throat's a little sore. And then I posted a link to a really good informational piece from sciencebasedmedicine.org, which do you listen to? Shit, I'm trying to think. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe?
No.
Oh, it's a pretty good show.
I listen to a lot of murder porn.
Oh, that's right. You're into the crime stuff.
Yeah.
But so science-based medicine, I don't know if it's run exclusively. I don't think it's run exclusively from the Skeptic's Guide people, but I know they contribute to it. It's a great resource for a bunch of health-related information. They've got a bunch of stuff on GMOs out there. They got a bunch of stuff on stuff like this, the cell phone bullshit. So I sent a link to a page on the sciencebasedmedicine.org site. I'll post that in the show links, by the way, if anybody wants to go and check it out. But this particular link, after looking at a bunch of different stuff, this was like the one thing that kind of goes through and takes down a bunch of Dr. Devra Davis's arguments against mobile technology.
Is she like the biggest person out there for like cell phones kill you and your microwave is eating your brain?
She's definitely one of the more prominent and outspoken critics of mobile technologies and their potential health risks and effects to the human population. But so
the only health risk you have is someone watching a movie on their phone while driving and crashing into you.
It might be in this article, but there was kind of a funny thing about, we have heard about several people being injured while laying in bed looking at their phones and accidentally dropping it on their faces. But that's about it. But so this basically goes through, Dr. Davis had written a book, and it's called The Truth About Cell Phone Radiation, What the Industry Has Done to Hide It, and How to Protect Your Family. And the words truth, radiation, industry, protect, and family are all capitalized fully. The rest are,
I didn't even realize that was a book cover.
Case.
I thought that was just the ad on top of the website.
No, that's the cover of, that's the cover of her book.
Yeah, she needs another better designer.
And so the website, or the page on sciencebasedmedicine.org, goes through a lot of the claims in the book and exposes just how bullshit they are.
This is, I also love this on there. National Book Award finalist.
Didn't win anything.
You just made it to the final round.
I was one of the finalists. But yeah, I mean, it goes through and lists major factual misstatements like errors in basic physics, interphone and cell phone use for 10 plus years, talking about a bunch of the different studies that she cites and how she just lies about them in her book and in her presentation. And then they go through and cite the actual studies that she mentioned and how she was fucking wrong. And even the things that she cites as valid studies who claim this, who make this claim or whatever, she lied about. Like, the study exists, but then she lies about the claims made in the study, or she exaggerates the claims made in the study. Like, it's all fucking nonsense. And so I sent him this link, and then he just replied back with, now I got to go back to our email here. So then he replies back and says, dismissing people as kooks is intellectually easy. About as easy as calling someone who compares the relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland with North Carolina and South Carolina as, all caps, ignorant.
Which I still don't know what he's referring to there.
I don't either, because like I said, I wasn't about to go back and listen to our episode from 6 months ago after doing all this other bullshit.
I mean, they both share a border.
Yeah. What?
Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. And North Carolina and South Carolina both share a border.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
And they both have oceanfront property.
They both have the word Ireland in them. So then I just replied and said, "Yep, it's super easy. What's great about its ease in this case is that it's also absolutely true." And then he replies and says, "You're absolutely true. Simply keeps you from having an open mind, and sciencebasedmedicine.org has its own agenda." And I replied immediately, or within 23 minutes, it looks like, and said, "Oh, what's their agenda?" And then he went radio silent. So maybe he's gone away. Maybe he just got too busy. I don't know.
They have their own agenda. It's just another easy cop-out.
Yeah. Well, they have their own agenda. Okay. Well, what is the agenda? Is it a nefarious agenda, or is their agenda to fucking inform the public about stupid shit like this?
To fact-check people and to show, hey, here's the actual scientific study they're citing, and that's not what it fucking says.
Yeah, just saying that somebody has an agenda doesn't tell me anything about what that agenda is. Everybody has a fucking agenda. What is your agenda? That's what I want to know. So I asked him, and of course he never replied. So fuck you, Rob.
It's like with Snopes. Anytime I know I got a lot of right-wing friends that hate that website.
Yeah.
Because it
exposes a lot of bullshit that they believe. Yeah.
But if there's something on there that they agree with, they go, see, right there. It
says it on Snopes.
I'm like, oh, but I thought you didn't agree with that website.
It's like religious people using science to prove their religious beliefs. Yeah. Jesus Christ. That's not how it works, people. So, yeah, my time to me is very valuable, and I have a lot of other shit going on. And so when somebody sends me something like this, I'm like, oh, well, maybe we got something wrong. I should call and make sure that that we weren't misleading people, because I don't want to live with that burden myself. If I'm wrong about something, I want to know. But no, you're fucking wrong, Rob, and you wasted hours and hours of my fucking life, and then you're being an arrogant prick about it. So fuck you.
But now I am kind of interested to go back and find out what we said about Ireland.
I'm a little interested, but not enough.
The Ireland thing was all about abortion, because they made abortion legal, and that's what we were talking about. And
yeah. Well, yeah, that's in the show notes that we mentioned the Ireland
passing or getting rid of their shitty abortion laws.
restriction. Yeah.
So maybe that's what one of us was referring to between North Carolina and South Carolina.
Yeah, the
because
North
they have
more
horrible
progressive
fucking. I was maybe saying they had horrible fucking abortion issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's been 6 fucking months. I don't remember everything we say on every show.
What did I say 10 minutes ago?
That's like the show notes. I put the show notes in there, of course, for our listeners so they know, but it's also so that I can refer back and go, when did we talk about this one thing? Yeah. So, but thank you all very much for listening. There will be another show next week, and hopefully Matthew will be here with us.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be feeling better. Sorry you weren't here with us tonight, man. We missed you.
I gave your chair a hug.
In your absence. I don't know why. Like, hugging the chair was weird enough. I don't know why you decided to lick the seat.
Well, I had to get the full essence.
All right. That'll wrap things up for us this evening. I hope you all had an enjoyable time while I ranted about fucking Rob. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the show. I know it was a little
different.
It was a little different. I mean, and there were some down parts, but I mean, it was still for me and I hope for the rest of the family still a fairly enjoyable holiday. And I hope you guys all had a good holiday also. But before we go, I want to make sure that we thank our Patreon patrons. That would be Mr. Alan Firth,
Pneumania,
Christy Kalbach,
Gay Theist,
Larry Wilson,
Stephen Andrews,
Let Them Eat Kofefe,
2 Skeptical Chaps,
Michelle Short,
Vanessa,
Freethinker 215,
Captain Samples,
Utah Outcasts,
Janet Uter,
Marius Kot Butrakowski,
Wesley Aaron,
Andrew Vodopich,
Taylor Grin,
Angelica Pearson,
Jeremy Goodson,
Brandy Hamrick,
Megan Kennedy,
The Foz,
Jeff Peterson,
Jesse Pointer,
Savita Kuna,
and the Purple Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Who I haven't seen for a little bit.
No, we need to have him come back on here sometime soon.
Yes. I wanted to try to meet up with Taboo while he was in town, but with the death in the family, like, you know, between trying to coordinate what the rest of the family's doing and where they're going to be, and if we need to be here to help to help entertain them, not really entertain them, but just be around while they're in the house and, you know, what their plans are and what our plans are and where we're going to meet mutually and what we're going to be doing, where, you know, his other family members coming over, and then the death in the family and everything. It was like, you know, I was just kind of trying to play it by ear. And there was like one day where I sent to you a message and I'm like, hey man, I know it's short notice, but you know, I'm free tonight. Can you come over and record tonight? And he's like, oh no, because I was coming out here on a government flight and I got bumped or it got delayed or something. So I think he was still in Japan when I sent that message. And so he came out later, and then there was the death in the family, and then the holiday and the viewing. And it was just,
well, then he was spending the holidays with his kids too. And I had Sarah's family was all here, which, yeah.
So we didn't get to meet up, but hopefully next time, or maybe we can just schedule some time if he wants to stay up and
Skype with us.
Yeah. Something like that. But it's been a while. I'd like to catch up with that guy. He's a good dude. And I know that it's getting a bit late and you've got to drive for a bit. So there will not be an extended Patreon portion this evening.
And it's snowing.
And it's snowing, which is why you should get home before it gets too bad out there. Because you've got to drive and I don't.
It's only 50 miles.
Only 50 miles in the snow. Yeah. It'll be fine. You've got is it all-wheel drive?
It's front-wheel drive.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You're a seasoned pro. You drive a long fucking way a lot.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming over, man. It's good to see you. Good to catch up for a bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you. Yay.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for listening. And so until next week, crucify conspiracy theorists.
Leave a review for your 5Gs.
And rate the show 5 times a day toward AT&T.